A young woman doesn't fall in love through logic. She gets caught up in a question that unsettles her, that makes her imagine, that leaves her thinking about you when you're no longer around. If all you know how to talk about is travel, work, or your good manners, you're just another man, polite, invisible. Because here's the truth. Female desire doesn't grow out of respect. It grows out of mystery, out of the feeling that she can't predict you. That every word you say is a code she's not sure whether to crack or surrender to. Today I'm going to give you 7 questions that aren't asked out of politeness, but strategy. Each one designed to get into her mind, into her fire, into the part of her that never shows up on Instagram. And let me warn you, the last one won't just throw her off, it'll make her look at you like she's never looked at an older man before. I'm Celia, and I'm not here to teach you how to be charming. I'm here to show you how to become the kind of man a young woman doesn't dare to forget. Stay with me, because this isn't seduction. This is psychology applied to desire. Have you ever wondered what would happen if you stopped being afraid of a woman's hidden desire? Not the kind she shows off with filters and motivational quotes. The real one. The one she hides behind her silences, her fake laughter, her politically correct answers. That kind of desire isn't triggered by flowers or favors. It's triggered by one sentence. Just one that makes her look at you differently. And that's where everything begins. We're at the first point of this video, and it's this. What would you do if no one judged you for wanting something forbidden? This isn't a survey question. It's a mirror that confronts her with what she keeps quiet, a key that unlocks her most dangerous, most authentic side. Because every young woman, even if she won't admit it, has fantasies that don't match her script, that she can't tell her friends, that she wouldn't dare write in her own journal. But you're not there to judge her. You're there to provoke her, to plant a question in her mind that unsettles her and returns at midnight. Picture this. You're at a cafe with her. The conversation is going well. She's telling you about her degree, her travels, her future plans. All good, all clean. But you know that if you keep going down that path, she's going to file you under nice guy, polite, well-mannered, harmless. So, without changing your tone, without coming off aggressive, you drop the line. What would you do if no one judged you for wanting something forbidden? Silence. She smiles, looks down. Pretends she didn't get it, but she got it. Because you're not asking about sex, you're asking about freedom, about instinct, about what truly lights her up when no one's watching. That question pulls her out of the role. It disconnects her from the idea of control, because a young woman is tired of being seen as a trophy, as a girl to impress. What she wants is a man who's not afraid of her shadow, who sees all of her, even the parts she tries to hide. And with that one sentence, you're telling her, I'm not interested in your mask. I want to see your fire. This isn't about being vulgar, it's about being the spark, about speaking not to her ego, but to her subconscious desire. Because when she hears that question, she's not just thinking about the answer. She's thinking about you, about why you dared to say it, about what kind of man can provoke her without touching her, without invading her space, just with a sentence perfectly timed. And if you do it right, she won't answer with words. She'll answer with something else, with the look that changes, with the way her body shifts, with the message she sends you at 2 a.m. because in her mind, you already opened a door. One that only men with real presence know how to open and close when they choose, not to trap her, but so that she's the one who starts looking for you without knowing why. If the first question opened the door to her hidden desire, now it's time to test her. Because a young woman doesn't get obsessed with the man who reads her soul, but with the one who disarms her with elegance. It's not enough to touch the forbidden. You have to challenge her social mask without being offensive, and for that, you need a question that sounds innocent, but forces her to reveal herself. We've reached the second key point of this video, and it's this gem. Are you always well behaved, or only when someone's watching? That line isn't a game, it's a mirror, because you're telling her, without saying it, that you suspect there's a part of her that stays hidden, that holds back, that's waiting for the right moment to be unleashed. And that, psychologically, is irresistible. Because everyone, Especially young women raised between digital validation and moral scrutiny feels like they're living a double life. One public, polished, and one private, messy, contradictory, alive. What you're doing with this question is suggesting that you see that duality. And you do it without judgment, just with a calm, steady tone, like someone with too much life experience to fall for the act she's putting on. In practical psychology, this is called social cognitive dissonance. She wants to keep looking good, but at the same time, she needs to feel that she can't control you, that you're not impressed by her filters or her talk about yoga, emotions, or noble causes. You see her, not the edited version, her real energy, her wild side. And that, my friend, creates a tension she won't be able to shake off easily, because you're not flattering her, you're challenging her. You're telling her with a smile, I know you're not as innocent as you pretend to be, and I like that. The power of this question lies in what it doesn't say, because you're not asking if she behaves well, you're asking whether she does it out of conviction or fear. And every young woman living in a world of social media, inspirational quotes, and constant eyes on her will feel exposed, because that one question, delivered at the perfect moment, reminds her of something. There are still men who don't kneel before her beauty, men who observe, who analyze, who understand the female psyche beyond the young body. And if you're that man, you won't have to look for ways to impress her. She'll start opening up her world to you. She'll confess things she hasn't told her closest friends. She'll message you in the middle of the night to tell you that secret she's never told anyone. Because you're no longer just another guy. Now you're the only one who knew how to speak to her shadow, without undressing her. Just with words that ignite what no photo could ever show. Her desire to be seen by a man who can't be manipulated. So far you've hinted, you've challenged, you've planted a doubt she won't shake off easily. But now, it's time for something more subtle, to open the door to her chaotic, emotional, irrational side. Not to judge her, but to make her feel that with you, she doesn't have to pretend to be balanced. We've reached the third point of this video, and this is where everything starts to shift. Have you ever done something on impulse that even you don't understand? That question is a masterstroke, because every young woman carries a memory that doesn't fit her official story. A moment when she wasn't logical or careful or consistent, when she let herself be driven by a force she couldn't explain. And with that line, you bring it back. Not so she can justify it, but so she can relive it with you. You give her an emotional space where irrationality is welcome, where impulse isn't suppressed, where judgment doesn't exist. And what happens then? She starts to loosen up, her tone shifts, her body language softens, because you're not trying to control her, you're trying to truly know her, not the version she posts online, the real one, the one even she doesn't fully understand. The strategy is simple but powerful. This question activates a part of her brain tied to raw emotion. You're not making her think, you're making her remember, feel, relive. And if that feeling happens while she's with you, her mind connects you to that fire, to that part of her that feels alive, real, dangerous. And that's when she starts to want you, not for your age, your looks, or your status. She wants you because with you, she feels allowed, not admired, allowed, and that has a far deeper power. Picture the scene. You're in conversation. Suddenly, you drop the question. She smiles, pauses. Yeah, once. And then she starts telling you something that gives her away. Something she's never shared before. Something that proves that behind that gentle voice is a woman starving for intensity. And you don't react with surprise or judgment. You just listen. You hold space for her without saying a word. In her mind, that moment already set you apart, as the only man who's not afraid of her chaos. Before we go on, if this is hitting home for you, do two simple things. Hit like on this video and subscribe right now. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and write just 3 words, I am untamed, because that's what a young woman is truly looking for when she meets an older man who doesn't kneel. Permission to stop pretending. And stay tuned, because the next questions won't just throw her off, they'll get under her skin. And the last one will completely change the way she sees you. After touching her deepest impulse, the next step isn't to push. It's to position yourself, because a young woman might open up on instinct, but she stays because of admiration. And if you don't know how to play with the tension between her ego and your presence, you'll fall into the trap that destroys most men, becoming her emotional mirror. We've reached the fourth point of this video, and here it is. What do you think a man who can't be manipulated would see in you? This might sound like a compliment, but it's not. It's a boundary, a reversed mirror. You're asking her how she would come across if she stopped playing. If she stood in front of a man who doesn't need her approval, who doesn't fall for a smile, who doesn't dance to her ego's rhythm. A man who is steady, directed. And in that moment, the internal conflict that every young woman carries is activated. The fascination with a man who doesn't need to validate her, but still sees her. The mistake most older men make when talking to a younger woman is trying to win her approval. They want her to like them. They want to prove they're not too intense, that they're understanding, modern, easygoing. But you know what a woman sees when you do that? An emotionally available and emotionally weak man. Because if you, with all your experience, your story, your journey, act like a student seeking approval, she steps into the role of teacher. And I promise you, desire doesn't grow towards someone who teaches. It grows towards someone who can't be taught. This question forces her to see herself from a new angle, not as a victim, not as a girl, not as the main character. You're telling her, if you meet a man who doesn't play along, who doesn't fall, who doesn't react, what's left of you? And that's when her true essence shows, because that's the question no friend has asked her. No guy her age has dared to pose, because they're all competing to win her over. But you're not. You're observing whether she's a match for your energy, and that throws her off. Psychologically, this question flips the dynamic. She's no longer the one choosing. You're the one evaluating. You turn the game on its head. And even if it stings her ego, it fuels her desire. Because a young woman might play with 10, 20, 50 men who want her. But she keeps thinking about the one who holds a mirror up to her. The one who shows her, without raising his voice, that she can't control him. If you fall into the trap of chasing her approval, you lose your magnetism. But if you speak from this place, from stoic clarity, from grounded observation, from emotional neutrality, you enter a different level. The level where you no longer need to seduce. You only need to be. And she'll have to decide whether she's ready to stand in your presence. Because now you're not asking for her attention. You're demanding authenticity. And that, my friend, is something no social media post can fake. When a young woman starts to feel emotionally exposed around you, her mind reacts in one of two ways. Either she pulls away or she leans in harder, trying to see if you're really as different as you seem. And that's when, if you're not grounded, if you can't hold the tension, you risk making the worst mistake, thinking you're winning, when in reality, you're just stepping into her game. We're now at the fifth point of this video, and it's this subtle but lethal phrase: do you ever find yourself drawn to someone you know you shouldn't be looking at? It's not just a provocation, it's a way to get her to say out loud what she hadn't even dared to think. You're not telling her she wants you, you're leading her to admit that she could, and that it doesn't make her less of a woman. In fact, it makes her more real. And this is where many men go wrong. The moment they hear something like that, they get excited. They think they've got her, that they've already won. And so they let their guard down. They start texting more, asking what she's doing, chasing the validation they didn't need before. And in that moment, they lose everything they had built. Because the man who changes himself for a woman's desire stops being desirable. That's the paradox. She desires you when she feels she can't control you. When you're there because you choose to be, not because you need to be. But if you change your stance after that question, if you become predictable, soft, overly available, she pulls back. She feels exposed. She feels guilty. And instead of leaning in, she covers up. And you're left alone, confused, wondering where you went wrong. The trap is thinking an emotional confession is a guarantee. It's not. It's just a glimpse of vulnerability, a test. And if you can't hold that moment with quiet strength, you become just another guy. One who tried to please instead of contain. Because to contain doesn't mean to control, it means to hold steady. To look at her with desire, yes, but without begging. It means making it clear that even if she comes closer, you remain the same. The man who doesn't kneel. The man who stays centered even when she's inches away. Can you recover the respect lost by falling into this trap? Yes, but not with sweet words or apologies. You recover it with attitude, with presence, with silence, with a look that says, yes, I want you, but I don't need to chase you. Because only when she senses that you don't depend on her response does she start to feel drawn again. Female attraction doesn't grow out of certainty. It grows from doubt, from not knowing if she can handle your energy. And if you lose that, you lose the game. Adopt this mindset. Not everything she confesses is an invitation. Sometimes it's just a test, a radar, a probe. And if you, instead of holding your ground, rush in emotionally, you become what she despises most, an adult with the soul of a teenager. Don't fall into that, because a young woman might test you, but she only stays with the one who doesn't need to be approved. And if you're watching this video, it's not to become her emotional buddy. It's to become the man who doesn't fold, whether she's standing close or walking away. Because he knows the one who doesn't chase is the one who ends up being chased. When a young woman throws you a veiled confession, she's not looking for a reaction. She's testing your composure, because if you shift over a single line, she already knows you're not stone, you're clay. And clay can be molded, used, and then discarded. That's why, if you've made it this far, you need to understand the difference between sparking desire and sustaining it. The first can be done by anyone with a sharp phrase. The second, only by a man with presence. And that brings us to the sixth point of this video, where we step into a realm of power. Do you prefer being gently dominated or being allowed to play at dominating? This question isn't about sex, it's about dynamics, subtle power, about who leads the game without forcing it. And here's the strongest part. When a young woman hears that line, she's not picturing the physical. She's feeling your energy. She's paying attention to how you're showing up. Because what you're really telling her, what no other man has dared to say, is that you see her need to play. But you're the one who decides when the game ends. Picture this, you're sitting across from her, you're talking. She's laughing, flirting, acting like she's in control, and you, without raising your voice, without breaking the rhythm, drop the question. She pauses, doesn't know whether to laugh, look away, or answer, because you've just exposed her. You've shown her that you know she wants control, but without giving up the thrill of being controlled. And without needing to explain, you've just taken emotional leadership of the moment. Because that question makes her wonder, am I with a man who can hold me, or one who's going to fold the moment I push? Most men walk into this kind of dynamic not realizing that it's not about physical dominance. It's about not losing your center when the tension rises. And if you don't get that, if you think being submissive is how you avoid scaring her off, you become her emotional pet, not her man, because feminine respect doesn't come from total compliance. It comes from mystery, from uncertainty, from knowing she can't lead you by the nose. And when you fall into that pattern, when you become the guy who tries to please her at every turn, you think you're gaining ground. But you're not. You're losing it. Because a young woman might seduce you, but if you can't hold your masculine energy steady, she won't surrender. She'll just play, and then she'll leave. Because for a woman with real fire, there's no bigger turnoff than a man who can be shaped. She loses respect. She loses desire. She looks at him and no longer feels the spark. That's why this question is so powerful, because it's not about what she says. It's about how she holds it. Does she smile playfully? Challenge you with her eyes? Try to turn it around on you? And you, in the middle of it, unmoved on the inside. Steady gaze. Grounded presence. Because you know real dominance isn't in what you do. It's in what you trigger without having to move. And if she senses that, she won't be able to get you out of her head. Because now, you're not just desired, you're dangerous. And for a young woman, that's addictive. If you've understood everything up to this point, then you already know that power doesn't lie in what you say, but in what you can hold. That a young woman doesn't stay with the man who entertains her, but with the one who unsettles her emotionally. That she doesn't chase the one who follows her, but the one who never strays from his path. But if all of that doesn't end in a sharp cutoff, in a brutal truth, in a phrase that forces her to face herself in the mirror, it all fades away. And that's why we've come to the 7th point of this video, the most uncomfortable, the most revealing. Why do you think good men don't make you feel anything anymore? This phrase is a direct shot to her awareness. It's not seduction, it's confrontation. You're asking her, without filters, why her desire no longer responds to kindness, to effort, to affection. Why the men who try so hard to win her over don't move her. Why she keeps falling, without meaning to, for men who don't protect her, but make her tremble. Because you're not chasing her approval, you're exposing her contradiction. And if that contradiction isn't named, if it's not laid bare, it ends up swallowing you too. Because as an older man, you may have more experience, more wisdom, more strength. But if you don't use that to draw an emotional boundary, you end up in the same trap as everyone else, nice, polite, available. In other words, invisible. Because the woman who says, "I want a good man," is often running from the one she can't control. And if you don't see that, you become just another good guy, useful, but never unforgettable. This question isn't for everyone. It's for the man who's done trying to be liked, who no longer needs anyone's approval to feel worthy, who doesn't want to be chosen for being easy, but for being real. And if you've got that fire, that stillness, that clarity forged from your own battle scars, then this phrase won't just make a difference. It'll draw a line between those who are just playing and those who are ready for something real. Because this is where the game ends. This question makes it clear that you know exactly why most men fail with her, and that you're not willing to be one of them. You're saying with one line, "I'm no longer a man trying to win you over. I'm a man who sees you, even when you don't want to be seen." And that, my friend, she never forgets. Because in a world where everyone's trying to be good, you chose to be clear. Where everyone's begging for affection, you chose to command respect. Where everyone's afraid to lose her, you showed her you can lose her and still remain whole. Because the man who chooses himself, even when she walks away, is the only one who can never be replaced. If you've made it to the end, you're not just another viewer. You're one of the rare men who can hold a gaze when the truth gets uncomfortable. The kind who doesn't skip to the next video when something hits deep. Because this wasn't a list of clever lines. It was a declaration of power. A brutal reminder that female attraction isn't one with flowers. It's triggered by presence. And if you're not willing to hold your desire without losing your center, then you'll keep being that good guy, the one no one truly desires. Today, you've heard 7 questions that aren't meant to please. They're meant to awaken, to make her see you, like she's never seen anyone before. But that only works if you stop playing the empathetic charmer and start walking like a man who no longer needs to seduce because he's already chosen himself. If this resonated with you, drop a comment right now with the words, "I am wise," and tell me which country you're watching from. Not for stats, but because I want to know where the men are waking up, the ones who are done being soft, manipulated, or disposable. I'm Celia, woman, psychologist, therapist, and this is House of Wisdom. We're not here to tell you everything's going to be fine. We're here to show you what no one else dares to give you the language that ignites her desire and the presence that commands her respect. Because real masculine power doesn't shout, it radiates. Subscribe now and be part of this community of men who no longer negotiate their dignity. And share this video with that one friend who still believes being nice is how you win her heart. Because sometimes all a man needs to wake up is to hear the right words at the exact right time. And don't go just yet. Watch the 2 videos now showing on your screen. Pick the one that makes you the most uncomfortable. Because right there, where you least want to look, is the truth that will transform you the most.